The Roman Empire, an empire of power, pleasure, and leisure. An empire that spread across the world of its day and lasted for 500 years. Among its cities, there's one that stood at the crossroads of its immense prosperity. A city that was core to its trade, shipping, and directly tied to its wealth. This is the story of Smyrna. A city thriving in affluence, yet hosting a church that's destined for tribulation. Smyrna was nestled along the beautiful Aegean coast. It's a hub of commerce and vibrant life. All of the key trade routes converged here because of the great Hermes River and Smyrna's deep water port. Merchants from the Far East on the spice route to the grain merchants out of Egypt all traveled from across the empire, bringing wealth beyond measure. But in the shadow of riches, a different currency was required for survival. Allegiance. Allegiance to the empire. This allegiance took root in 200 BC when Smyrna erected the first temple to the goddess Roma. Roma was the god that represented Rome and embodied the empire itself. Later, Caesars too would be worshipped here, and their images enshrined in temples demanding yearly sacrifice. Here, loyalty to Caesar was a civic duty. Worship was not just an act of devotion, it was a passport to survival. The greatest impact of this allegiance to the empire was felt in the Agora, Smyrna's grand marketplace, the beating heart of Roman commerce, banking, and tax collection in Asia Minor. Some of the very first coins of the Roman Empire were minted here. The main building in the Agora was one of the best banks in the empire. But entry into this world of power and plenty came at a price. A small pinch of incense, a quick prayer, a tribute to the divine gods of Rome and Caesar himself was all it took to secure one's place in the economy. To refuse, well, to refuse was to be locked out, to starve, to suffer. For the Christians of Smyrna, faith was a costly declaration. Refusing to bow down to the gods of Rome, to not hail Caesar as Lord and God, that came at a great cost. They were cast out, refused access into the Agora. Buying and selling was not permitted. Their businesses collapsed. Their homes became shelters of suffering. For those who refused, life became impossible. Without the mark or seal of sacrifice, one could not buy or sell. The Agora's overseer, known as the Agora, held authority to issue the proof of compliance. Without it, starvation loomed. If you made sacrifice to the gods, the Agora would give you a mark or a note that said, "We, the representatives of the empire, have seen your sacrifice." With this mark, you now could buy or sell in the Agora. For the Christians of Smyrna, resistance meant suffering, poverty, isolation, and the ever-present threat of persecution. The empire demanded worship. The early church refused. These early believers had one very valuable way of avoiding persecution from Rome. Decades earlier, in 63 BC, Jewish leaders had secured an exemption from Roman worship. Recognized as a legal religion, their synagogues were sanctioned as education centers, offering protection from the empire's religious demands. In the early days, Christians were welcomed into the synagogues. They too benefited from the exemption of declaring allegiance to the gods of Rome. But in Smyrna, as the tensions grew, division took hold. Some Jewish leaders rejected these followers of Christ, casting them out, revoking their protection. Without this exemption, the Christians stood alone, without status and without safety. Because there's one thing that Rome couldn't allow, and that was disobedience. The slander against these early believers grew. They were accused of defying the empire, of dishonoring the gods, and so affliction, suffering, and poverty took hold. To the angel of the church in Smyrna write, "These are the words of the first and the last, who died and came to life again. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. The devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown. The church of Smyrna suffered, but it endured. These early followers of the way became a beacon of hope, a bastion of faith. And to this day, their testimony echoes across history, a church crushed by persecution, but a people of strong, unwavering faith, unshaken by the empire. The church of Smyrna suffered, but it endured. These early followers of the way became a beacon of hope, a bastion of faith. And to this day, their testimony echoes across history, a church crushed by persecution, but a people of strong, unwavering faith, unshaken by the empire. Thank you so much for watching. If this video was found fascinating by you, please check out these other videos on the 7 churches of Revelation, where we continue our study of looking at these churches in their original context.